We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
All set for Trump 2.0. Countdown to January 20th. Terror shadow, visa wars. All the twists and turns. Tracking Trump takeover. Every day at 10:30 p.m. only.
You are watching the World 24/7 on the NDTV network. I'm Parmeshwar Bava. We've got an action-packed bulletin lined up for you. Let's begin with the top stories you need to know. The World Bank has estimated that the Indian economy will grow 6.5% this year compared to 6.6% projected earlier, and will see a mild pickup in pace to 6.7% in the next year, remaining the fastest growing major economy. Global growth is projected at 2.7% for 2025 and 2026. Israel postponed the cabinet vote regarding a crucial ceasefire agreement that would halt fighting in Gaza and secure the release of numerous hostages. Disagreements over last-minute details have pushed the vote to today. Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes have resulted in at least 72 casualties. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian visits Moscow to sign a partnership treaty with Russian President Vladimir Putin. According to reports, President Joe Biden won't enforce a ban on the social media app TikTok that is set to take effect a day before he leaves office on Monday, leaving its fate in the hands of Donald Trump. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security will implement a final rule to modernize and improve the efficiency of the H-1B visa program today. The U.S. says the new rules enable American companies to fill critical job vacancies more effectively. U.S. filmmaker David Lynch, who exerted a vast influence on the big and small screen and challenged America's ideas about itself, has died aged 78. And our big focus, the World Bank has estimated that the Indian economy will grow 6.5% this year compared to 6.6% projected earlier, and will see a mild pickup in pace to 6.7% in the next year, remaining the fastest growing major economy. Global growth, by the way, is projected at 2.7% for 2025 and 2026. Now, while growth in India is expected to accelerate from 8.2% last year, it's said that services and farm sector expansion have been steady, with rural demand holding up. The global economic prospects have actually put the spotlight on developing countries, which are expected to close the first quarter of the current century with the weakest long-term growth outlook since the year 2000. You must crucially note that the global economy is growing steadily in the face of war, protectionist trade policies and high interest rates. It just isn't growing fast enough to bring relief to the world's poorest. This is what the World Bank has asserted in this latest assessment of the global economy. Now, the crucial news: in a dramatic turn of events, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu postponed a crucial cabinet meeting that was set to vote on the highly anticipated Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal. The decision, announced just hours before the scheduled Thursday meeting, came amid escalating tensions and last-minute disputes with Hamas over the terms of the agreement. Netanyahu's office actually issued a statement accusing Hamas of sparking what it called a last-minute crisis, further adding that as a result, the cabinet will not meet until Hamas agrees to the full terms of the deal. However, I must inform you that a senior Hamas official has denied any breach and reaffirmed the group's commitment to the ceasefire deal and its terms. But despite this delay, senior US officials remain optimistic. In fact, Secretary of State Antony Blinken expressed confidence that the ceasefire would still go into effect on Sunday as initially planned. He acknowledged a loose end in negotiations but assured the public that US diplomats in Doha are working tirelessly to resolve the final details. The next vote on the ceasefire is now expected to take place this morning. Meanwhile, Netanyahu faces growing internal pressure, particularly from his hardline National Security Minister Ben-Gvir, who vowed to resign if this deal is ratified. But despite Ben-Gvir's opposition leader Yair Lapid has expressed full support for this current deal, emphasizing that the agreement's importance outweighs political differences. Take a look at the finer details.
As of this morning, the Prime Minister's office has made clear that Hamas have reneged on this hostage release agreement and has created a last-minute crisis in an effort to extort last-minute concessions.
The Gaza ceasefire hasn't even taken effect yet, and already it appears to be in trouble. Two U.S. presidents, Joe Biden and President-elect Donald Trump, both announced the deal on Wednesday, as did the Prime Minister of Qatar, the Middle East country that's been mediating weeks of negotiations. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says there still is no agreement. He's blaming Hamas. He says the group is trying to make last-minute changes to the deal. Hamas denies these allegations and says it's committed to the agreement. There may be an element of domestic Israeli politics at play here. Two hardline partners in Netanyahu's governing coalition have come out against the deal and threatened to possibly bring down the government over it. It's not clear how serious this crisis is, but it has forced Netanyahu to delay a planned cabinet vote that was meant to ratify the agreement. The agreement aims to end a devastating 15-month war. It would bring home dozens of hostages held in Gaza and also allow hundreds of thousands of displaced Palestinians to return to their homes, or what's left of their homes, in Gaza. The deal was welcomed on both sides on Wednesday, but for the time being, the families of hostages and the displaced Palestinians are now facing another period of renewed uncertainty.
In other crucial news, the United States is set to launch an updated H-1B visa program today. Now, these new rules, announced by the Department of Homeland Security, aim to boost fairness, transparency, as well as efficiency in hiring global talent. They also address growing concerns about fraud from employers and employees. In fact, the key changes include revised criteria for specialty jobs, clearer guidelines on qualifying degree areas, automatic gap extensions for F1 students, and faster processing times to streamline the transition to H-1B status. This rule, which takes effect today, aims to enhance the requirements for the H-1B non-immigrant visa program, enabling US companies to fill critical job vacancies more effectively, address labor needs in critical fields, and also strengthen the US economy. Meanwhile, just days before Donald Trump's inauguration as US president, Russia and Iran are set to sign a landmark strategic partnership pact in Moscow, a move that will further solidify the growing alliance between two of the West's key adversaries. This deal marks a significant deepening of ties that have strengthened dramatically since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and it's fueling concerns that the West's long-held fears about this alliance are now becoming reality. But as Moscow moves closer to Tehran, there are growing questions about the potential geopolitical ramifications, but Russian officials remain defiant. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov dismissed the idea that the pact was aimed at the West, drawing a parallel with a similar agreement signed with North Korea. In fact, Mr. Lavrov insisted earlier this week, this agreement, like our treaty with North Korea, is not directed against anyone. However, some experts remain very skeptical. My colleague Mohammad Ghazali has been tracking all aspects of the story for us. He joins us over the phone line at the moment. Ghazali, as Moscow and Tehran strengthen their ties, should the West be worried? Some argue that the matters seem increasingly uncertain as we speak.
See, as far as whether the West should be worried or not, certainly, because since Tehran and Moscow got closer, we had seen how the war in Ukraine had changed, because it was the biggest support Russia got from Tehran when they started supplying them the refurbished drones which are getting damaged, the Russian drones which are getting damaged in the Ukraine war. were getting refurbished back in Tehran, and Tehran was resupplying it to Russia. Now, the reports are suggesting that perhaps when President-elect Mr. Donald Trump will get into office on 20th of January, he is going to ease some sanctions on Russia if Russia and Ukraine try to go for a diplomatic solution for the war, and squeeze Iran and put more sanctions on Iran for its oil production and oil sale. So if Russia and Iran continue to grow so closely, and if this pact or comprehensive strategic partnership is what we are being told gets through, or this deal gets through, then perhaps there is a clause which says that both parties will come to the need of each other whenever they get under any kind of attack. Though both Russia and Iran continue to deny that there would be any such kind of pact between the two countries when it comes to the defense ties, but West must be concerned about the kind of cooperation these two countries are, because both of them are facing sanctions from the West world, and that is why if they continue to be closer, there is always a chance that Russia, China, Iran, these three countries, which are generally now, Russia and Iran are generally being seen as an international pariah, because a lot of countries have put sanctions on them. And if they continue to grow closer, there is a very much chance that they will also try to bring in more countries on their side, and may influence the global order as well.
Ghazali, as always, thanks so much for joining us with the latest and contextualizing the details for us. Meanwhile, according to reports, US outgoing President Joe Biden will not enforce a ban on the social media app TikTok that is set to take effect a day before he leaves office on Monday, leaving its fate in the hands of President-elect Donald Trump. Officials who are familiar with the matter said the outgoing administration was leaving the implementation of the law and the potential enforcement of the ban to Donald Trump and his team. Well, let's turn our attention now to Canada, where Mark Carney, the globally influential central banker and staunch advocate for green investment, has officially launched his campaign to lead Canada's Liberal Party and become the country's next Prime Minister. The 59-year-old former Bank of England governor and Bank of Canada head made the announcement in Alberta, positioning himself as the leader Canada needs in times of profound change. He declared he is here to ask for everyone's support, emphasizing his commitment to earning the trust of the Canadian people. In fact, Mr. Carney acknowledged the country is facing significant challenges, but also expressed confidence in his ability to tackle them head-on. But his candidacy comes at a pivotal moment in Canadian politics, as Justin Trudeau announced earlier this month that he would step down after nearly a decade in power. Trudeau's departure, while it marks an end of an era, it leaves the country in search of a new leader, new leadership, as his once dominant global profile continues to fade. But with national elections looming this year, Mr. Carney's bid represents a sharp break from the past and, as some say, a bold vision for Canada's future.
I'm here to ask for your support. I'm here to earn your trust, to lead that fight. I'm back home in Edmonton to declare my candidacy for leader of the Liberal Party and Prime Minister of Canada.
Right, with that, let's turn our attention now to the United Kingdom. Well, when is a U-turn not truly a U-turn? When it's actually less about changing direction and more about adjusting the speed and extent of a policy. Now, on those terms, Keir Starmer's recent announcement of a review into grooming gangs marks his second significant policy shift this week alone. The UK government has announced a rapid national review of the extent of sexual exploitation of children by grooming gangs and several new local inquiries into cases of abuse. The issue was at the center of a political firestorm earlier this month when a war actually broke out of words between Elon Musk, the US tech billionaire, and Prime Minister Keir Starmer. The row actually relates to sex offences going back decades against British girls by men of mostly South Asian origin in various northern English towns. By the way, in a bold show of solidarity, Sir Keir Starmer has vowed to put Ukraine in the strongest possible position following his visit to Kyiv, where he signed a historic 100-year agreement with the war-torn nation. The Labour leader's trip, however, was underscored by the stark realities of the ongoing war, as loud blasts and air raid sirens interrupted proceedings after a reported Russian drone attack was intercepted by Ukraine's defense systems. But Mr. Starmer's visit underscores his commitment to bolstering Ukraine's fight for independence, marking a significant step in international support as the war with Russia rages on.
Because if Ukraine falls, there won't be Europe.
I completely agree, and it's so important that we must
Дуже важливо.
and we will stand with Ukraine for as long as it's possible. That's why I'm here.
And by the way, BP has announced it will cut more than 5% of its global workforce, a move aimed at slashing costs and restoring investor confidence under the leadership of CEO Murray. The energy giant revealed that around 4,700 employees and 3,000 contract positions will be eliminated this year as part of a broader strategy to streamline operations. But despite the significant layoffs that were announced, BP shares saw a 1% increase at about 1 p.m. GMT, reflecting some market optimism. And with that, let's turn our attention to our neighborhood. Bangladesh's Constitution Reform Commission has recommended dropping the fundamental principles such as secularism and socialism from the country's constitution. The Commission, in a report submitted to the Chief of Bangladesh's interim government, Muhammad Yunus, recommended that three principles, socialism, secularism, and nationalism, be replaced with equality, human dignity, and social justice and pluralism. For further clarity, we have with us senior journalist from TRT World, Mohammad Kamruzaman, joining us live. Thanks so much, as always, for making time for us. Now, with secularism being removed from the constitution, how might this affect Bangladesh's religious landscape, particularly in relation to majority and minority communities?
Thank you very much for having me. First of all, I like to say that this is a very preliminary stage. This is a recommendation. It means that it will be discussed with all stakeholders, including political parties and all other social and religious groups. Then it will be finalized. So it's a very preliminary stage. And we also noticed that actually the July movement that toppled Sheikh Hasina regime, that equality was a very much important factor behind that movement, because 54% quotas were in government jobs. So there was a sense among the people for amendment in the constitution, and in that case, equality and human rights, pluralism, this was the fundamental demands of the people. Now the debate that you have already mentioned about the removal of secularism, actually this term was a little bit unclear. There were debates with this for long. Despite having secularism in the constitution since the independence of Bangladesh in 1971, even there was misuse of religion. Even if you saw the history of Bangladesh, you see that before the national elections, even ex-Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina went to Makkah, performed Hajj, and then with hijab came to the country. So there were many misuse, and even he was the mother of...
But is this being seen as a genuine return to the original values of independence, or is it a political maneuver to align with the current public sentiment?
Actually, it doesn't mean that removal of, according to my sense, removal of secularism doesn't mean that religion will be dominant here. Actually, social justice and other issues that has been included, it means that all the stakeholders, all the people will enjoy freedom here, and human rights will be upheld here. So it doesn't mean that religion will be dominated here. However, it will be discussed with all stakeholders, and then finally it will be finalized after discussion through the experts also. So we have to wait for the final result on this recommendation.
Well, as Mohammad Kamruzaman is reporting, this is in its preliminary stages. It has not been finalized, but we will of course revert to you for regular updates from Dhaka. Thanks so much as always for joining us. News and updates continue in a moment, right after this very short break. Do stay tuned.
We are able to maintain the democratic fabric and the democratic system.
I want to do something that can make a difference.
लगातार जनता की आवाज को सरकार तक पहुंचाने का काम मैं करता हूं।
I was a student up until very recently. I really want to work and do something for my people because they have given me this opportunity. They have elected me.
सोचा नहीं था कि राज्यसभा सांसद बनूंगी।
Kind attention, please. Delhi Election Metro 2025 is arriving on People's Platform. Please mind the gap. BJP or AAP, who will get to the Delhi Secretariat station?
दरवाजे बाईं तरफ खुलेंगे.
Who will Delhi voters open the victory doors for? And who will be shown the door? Can the BJP throw AAP's victory run off track? Or will it be Kejriwal's ticket to win again? Can Congress take the election metro to revival? We will track it all for you. Delhi's decision destination.
Doors will open on the left.
Stay tuned to NDTV for mega metro poll coverage.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
In a time of sweeping economic change, what can India's past tell us about its future? From the watershed moments of 1991 to the challenges of tomorrow. Join Sanjay Pugalia, Editor-in-Chief NDTV, in conversation with past and present Finance Commission chairpersons N.K. Singh and Arvind Panagare. Reforms past, present and future. A special presentation on NDTV.
Mahakumbh, the festival of faith, the world's biggest spiritual festival, the divine dip at the spiritual Sangam, a sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV's mega coverage of the Mega Fest. NDTV at Mahakumbh 2025.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World.
Welcome back. In an exclusive chat with NDTV, outgoing US envoy to India says that India and the United States will realize nuclear deal potential. And talking about Trump's trade and tariffs threat, he said that tariffs will impact both countries, and he's expressed confidence that strategic ties will remain unchanged. Here's what Mr. Eric Garcetti told Vishnu Shom.
Ambassador Eric Garcetti has been in India for a couple of years, part of a process of the relationship between India and the United States evolving, changing. We've seen that process now for several years, but there's been a sense of continuity which Ambassador Garcetti has really helmed over the last couple of years. Thanks very much for speaking to us. I'm sad in a sense that, you're going to be going back to the US, but so be it. That's just the way things move. But I think the real concern in India, I don't know if concern is the right word, is will there be continuity in the relationship, as has been the case in the past?
I couldn't be more confident of that. And I say that as somebody who has loved every minute of being ambassador here.
Right.
This is the most consequential relationship. And a generation ago, the depth of it would be unimaginable that we have today. I think a generation from now, it'll be absolutely indispensable. And it hasn't mattered whether it's a president who's a Republican or a Democrat. Hasn't mattered here who's in power as prime minister. This was the most pro-Indian president, I think, in US history. We have the most pro-American prime minister in Indian history, but every next prime minister and president wants to top the last one even further. And that speaks to how close our people are and how strategically aligned we are, but how our hearts also continue to feel the same way about each other.
You used the word strategic. In a sense, the old civil nuclear deal was the beginning of the takeoff of the strategic relationship. But many would say it's not really been realized. Because we haven't really seen American nuclear technology in India in terms of big plants being set up. There are some laws which have changed. Do you believe that we can now see a greater involvement of American companies in the Indian nuclear sector?
There's been great work in this area, and I'm very optimistic about what the future will bring. I've talked to opposition and BJP leaders who say that they think that there's a legislative solution on some of the liability for the large ones, but the technology is also changing to small modular reactors. We have amazing American companies, some Indian companies we just took off of our list, allowing them to do now business directly. This week we announced that in the United States. Let's create a partnership on nuclear power to make sure it's not China or somebody else who defines the reactors, not just for electricity, but for the propulsion of ships and other things in the future. Imagine US technology, Indian manufacturing prowess. And so there's a couple companies in those conversations right now about joint ventures that I think would address liability, saying, of course, you can have zero liability, but a car isn't liable for 50 years after you build it. Let's figure out a pathway where our opponents don't outflank us and where the US-India partnership defines the nuclear future.
Thank you for investing your time and watching this edition of The World 24/7. As always, we'll keep tracking the latest updates for you. Do stay tuned.
All set for Trump 2.0. Countdown to January 20th. Terror shadow, visa wars. All the twists and turns. Tracking Trump takeover. Every day at 10:30 p.m. only on NDTV 24/7.
We are able to maintain the democratic fabric and the democratic system.
I want to do something that can make a difference.
लगातार जनता की आवाज को सरकार तक पहुंचाने का काम मैं करता हूं.
I was a student up until very recently. I really want to work and do something for my people because they have given me this opportunity. They have elected me.
सोचा नहीं था कि राज्यसभा सांसद बनूंगी.
Kind attention, please. Delhi Election Metro 2025 is arriving on People's Platform.
Please mind the gap.
BJP or AAP, who will get to the Delhi Secretariat station?
दरवाजे बाईं तरफ खुलेंगे.
Who will Delhi voters open the victory doors for? And who will be shown the door? Can the BJP throw AAP's victory run off track? Or will it be Kejriwal's ticket to win again? Can Congress take the election metro to revival? We will track it all for you.
Delhi's decision destination.
Doors will open on the left.
Stay tuned to NDTV for mega metro poll coverage.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
In a time of sweeping economic change, what can India's past tell us about its future? From the watershed moments of 1991 to the challenges of tomorrow. Join Sanjay Pugalia, Editor-in-Chief NDTV, in conversation with past and present Finance Commission chairpersons N.K. Singh and Arvind Panagari. Reforms past, present and future. A special presentation on NDTV.
Mahakumbh, a festival of faith, the world's biggest spiritual festival, the divine dip at the spiritual Sangam, a sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV's mega coverage of the Mega Fest. NDTV at Mahakumbh 2025.
In the Saif Ali stabbing case, Saif Ali Khan continues to be in the Leelavati hospital. But what we've heard now is that the nanny has gone on to say that the break-in lasted for about 30 minutes inside Saif's house. Saif did manage to overpower the intruder, locked him up inside a room, but he managed to escape. And in the run-up to the elections in the national capital to take place on the 5th of February, today is the last day of filing nominations. And the ongoing Mahakumbh Mela, so far 7 crore devotees have taken the holy dip at the Sangam. The World Bank lauds India's growth, says India to remain the fastest growing economy, India to grow at 6.7% for the next 2 years. And BCCI all set to make changes that are going to come into effect from today in order to make domestic cricket mandatory, along with rules that will apply to the family travelling while matches are going on, along with other changes. New H-1B visa rules to come into effect from today. This will aid firms in retaining highly skilled workers. A very good morning. You're watching The Breakfast Show only on NDTV 24/7. I'm Divya Vadva. Let's get you the very latest in the attack that took place on Bollywood actor Saif Ali Khan. The statement of the nanny has been accessed. According to the nanny, the break-in lasted for about 30 minutes. The attacker had entered the room of their younger son of Kareena Kapoor and Saif Ali Khan, and the attacker then demanded for a ransom of 1 crore rupees. From what we're hearing is the second nanny who was present in the room ran to Saif Ali Khan